Welcome back to the show. My guest today, Faisal Susiwala, recently named as the #1 Remax agent worldwide in terms of sales volume and number of homes sold as well. If you'd like a chance to chat with Faisal yourself, you can start by going to homeshack.com. You can also call Faisal directly, 519-624-5555, or through email, Faisal@homeshack.com. So we've talked about this topic before, Faisal, where one generation is sitting on this large pile of money, and the other younger generation is struggling. We've talked about the boomers and the millennials and the Gen Xers and so on. If the boomers or the Gen Xers are kind of hanging on to that nest egg, what chance is there for the younger generation? And maybe we can take a look at how do we move forward and trying to spread the wealth around, I guess, would be one way to look at it.
It's always a question. Baby boomers are sitting on a staggering 72.6 trillion, not billion, but
Wow.
trillion in
Wow.
wealth. But many are just unsure right now whether to gift it to their kids
Right.
or pass it on as an inheritance. So there's a big debate now, and I mean, there was a viral post on X that sparked a debate with 10 million views on it, and you could sort of make a case for either way.
If
Uh,
if you were looking at, you want to help right now. You want to help while you're still here, so you can get the benefit of a pat on the back from the younger generation. What would be the gift, or what would be the case right now for if you're going to gift that right now?
So the case for gifting today is it has a life-changing impact
Right.
on your son or daughter or your dependents now, which can give them that running start. They could, get into the housing market. They could pay off their student loans. It could change the trajectory of their life by getting some of that now, as opposed to waiting until the age of 60 for that inheritance to come
Right.
in. So it's a life-changing event. But with the gift comes great responsibility.
And I would think that there's a generational look at this as well too. You've got the younger generations who, for no reason of their own, they've got high housing costs and so on. You've got the older generation that was taught to, kind of hoard these things and hang on to it. How do you kind of meet in the middle with those things?
And this is a big question because I've seen all aspects of this where mom and dad gifted their adult children enough money to buy a house, buy a car. They went into kind of rental accommodation, really streamlined their lifestyle. Sadly, the kids spent that money in the
Right.
wrong ways, made some bad decisions, went through some divorces and whatnot. Now the parents have reached 75, 80, and people are living longer.
Yep.
And sadly, they don't have enough funds to get them through the next 5, 7, 10 years of their life.
Right.
God forbid they need to go into a nursing home and the cost of that. So did they make the right decision? In that case, no. But then I've seen other instances where they've gifted and the kids have made a beautiful life for themselves, created a lot of wealth, and are helping their parents back in wherever they are and helping them. So it really depends, and it's a big question, and it's also the fear that, okay, if we give our money away right now, will we have enough for
Right.
healthcare, accommodation, travel, maintain somewhat of a lifestyle, or are we going to be sitting in a two-bedroom or one-bedroom apartment looking out the window,
Yeah.
hoping for the grandkids to visit? And that's the reality as well.
I would think there's no simple answer necessarily, and it really, the family would need to sit down and do their homework collectively and look at what's going to make the most sense.
You have to do the math. You have
Yeah.
to look at what lifespan you're hoping to live and then do the math and say, okay, if it's going to cost me $50,000 a year or $60,000 a year, do I have enough put away? And in a previous show, we talked about it where, there should be enough money put away in your own nest egg that even if you're earning 5% return on it, it can
Right.
maintain the lifestyle that you want. And then there is sufficient money there for you to leave behind. And anything as a surplus of that might be something to share with your children while you're alive, and hopefully, watch them enjoy some of that as well.
Absolutely. Along the same lines, that I mean, historically, I think, and especially maybe people of our age, we were when our kids were coming along, registered education savings plans. That seemed to be the be all and the end all. I remember coming home with our first son, and it was in a little pamphlet that we had. Don't forget, you get the diapers and the formula and everything else, but don't forget, you want to start saving for their education. Is that RESP still the best way to go for families right now when they're looking to save for their kids?
It it's better than doing nothing.
Right.
Okay. And there are tax incentives, there are government incentives to have this credits. And again, speak to your financial advisor about this. It's been a long time since I've had to contribute to an RESP. But I think a hybrid model is very important.
Okay.
So don't rely strictly on the RESP for your child's education, because that's not going to be enough.
Right.
I have two kids in university right now, and fortunately, I made a conscious decision when my children were born to purchase at least one rental property in trust for each child.
Mhm.
So my kids are 22 and 19. At this point, in about approximately 20 years, let's call it, fortunately, both of those properties that I had purchased when they were born are now paid off.
Right.
So that will give me enough funds to pay for their education if I needed to sell the property and if I was not in a position to pay for their education. It will give me enough money to help pay for their weddings and give them a start in life. And that was the intent 25, 22, 23 years ago, to have real estate as part of a holistic approach to saving. The RESP is great because it did give me significant amount of money, not enough to pay for their education accommodation, but enough to have, which now I was able to put in a savings account for my kids to say, here you go at some point if you need it. But we have to also consider the fact that today, many kids are choosing an alternative to university. They're
Correct.
saying, well, I don't want to go to university. I don't want to go to college. I'm going to go into a business. I'm going to go into a trade. I'm going to learn, carpentry or
Right.
bricklaying or whatever it may be. And all of these are very lucrative industries to be in because we lack trade. So yes, you can convert your RESP to your RSP if you have it. Again, speak to your financial advisor because the rules may have changed by now. Um, to really think about that before painting them into a corner and then forcing them to go to university because you started this RESP, which is not going to pay for your university and your tuitions and your books and your accommodation. So be prepared to dig into your pocket more. So this is where investing wisely in several platforms is advisable and not just relying on one. And again, if the investment doesn't do well, you'll still have your minimum, but you may not get a bigger return on there.
And you bring up that point. It's a great idea to be able to give your child choice. And I don't know if that was always the case when when I was younger, it was it was the be all and the end all was to go off to university. But nowadays it's they living to have experience, living to travel, living to try a number of different things. I mean, gone are the days where you go and get a job and you're going to work at it for 40 years. It doesn't seem to work that way. We've got to be flexible, not only in how we work with our kids, but also in how we save for them as well.
Absolutely.
Last section or the last question and sort of angle for this section. You sent over some pre-show notes, and it was talking about our we might be talking about something that's not even going to be happening down the road necessarily as much. The idea are couples still wanting to have kids. What are the numbers telling us? When you've done your research, what are you seeing out there?
We're seeing a decline. We're
Okay.
seeing a decline in birth rates. We're seeing a decline in that. And because the traditional family has changed, and I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it has changed, where there's a lot of consideration given to cost of raising a child.
Yes.
So first of all, the cost of just getting your first step into maybe owning a house or starting your life and buying a car. And remember, traditional families 50, 60, 70 years ago, dad went to work, mom was at home. Now we're seeing that both spouses, both partners are working. So is there time for that? And then there's also quality of life. If you're going to have multiple children, are you going to pay attention to multiple children? Are
Mhm.
you in a position to do that? Will you be able to pay for their education? Will you be able to give them the type of life that you want to give them? So all of these things are working its way through our
Through
our
our
societies now. Even housing has changed. It
Mhm.
was very difficult, I would say even 20, 25 years ago, to sell a home that was two bedrooms. Today, it's kind of a great starter home to get into. Studio apartments, that didn't exist in our society. Bachelor apartments didn't exist. One bedroom was, well, that's not enough because I plan on having multiple kids. So all of that has started, uh, we're seeing that as an apparent factor in our communities now. So everything is becoming smaller from that perspective, and I don't expect the growth to happen. And I don't quite know what the stats are, but they were staggering. Like the birth rates have declined 5x from what was the traditional family. So we're seeing that happen in our community as well.
And it's as you said before, we're looking at things through a different lens, and it's important for us to do that. We'll take a quick break. We need to get an update from the 570 News Center. When we come back, what's going on in the lives of real estate agents across the province? Stay with us here on 570 News Radio.